I thought my wife was being blackmailed, until I discovered she was the mastermind behind a deadly plot that destroyed our marriage and her freedom. Captain Drew Halstead froze in his kitchen as a notification ping broke the morning calm. Madison's tablet lit up on the granite counter. The shower upstairs was still running. She always took 10 minutes with that overpriced coconut shampoo. The message preview glowed, "Send another $2,000 or your husband finds out your dirty little secret." Drew's coffee mug hit the counter hard. He'd been gone 3 days on a logistics mission to Nellis, and somehow $5,000 had vanished from their joint account. Coincidence? Just helping Sarah with her rent, Madison had said that morning, not meeting his eyes. Military wives look out for each other, but Drew knew every military wife in their circle. There was no Sarah. The tablet buzzed again. "Don't test me, Madison. I have photos." Drew memorized the phone number. Local area code. He stepped back as the shower shut off upstairs. "Honey?" Madison's voice drifted down. "Did you say something?" "Just talking to myself," Drew called back, his voice betraying nothing. "Coffee's ready when you are." But as he listened to her moving around upstairs, Drew was already planning methodically, the way he'd been trained. The next morning at Peterson Air Force Base, Drew spread 6 months of bank statements across his desk. The pattern was clear. Small transfers at first to St. Services, then larger amounts. Last week's $5,000 withdrawal completed the picture. His phone buzzed. "Madison, going to lunch with the girls. Back around 3. Love you." Drew called his IT friend Marcus. "I need a GPS tracker, something small, military grade." 20 minutes later, Drew installed a quarter-size device into Madison's oversized leather keychain. She'd never noticed the extra weight. That evening, Madison was unusually attentive, cooking his favorite meal, wearing that blue dress, touching his arm constantly, classic deflection behavior. "How was your day?" she asked, refilling his wine. "Routine, yours?" "Abraham, same old drama with the wives' club." Her laugh sounded forced. "Sometimes I think we're all just playing house." Drew studied her face. "Is everything perfect, Madison?" Fear flickered across her features before the smile returned. "Broof, of course. Why?" "Abra, no reason. Just wondering if there's any tell me." Tang breached for her water. "Abra, like what? Like why you're lying about the money?" The silence stretched like a tripwire. Madison's breathing became shallow. "I don't know what you mean," she whispered. "Berkey, I'll ask you one more time. Where did the money go?" Madison's eyes filled with real tears this time. "Oh, bruh. It's complicated. Uncomplicated." She stood abruptly. "See, Bruka, I can't. Not yet. Please, trust me. Crust." Something sharp entered Drew's tone. "Trust is earned, Madison. Right now you're bankrupting that account too." She fled upstairs, leaving Drew with tactical calculations. Phase 1 complete. Now came surveillance. The GPS tracker painted a clear picture over the next week, normal patterns. Commissary, nail salon, Starbucks, except Tuesday afternoon. Drew watched the blinking dot move to the Desert Winds Motel and stay for exactly 2 hours and 17 minutes. Thursday, same thing. Friday, Drew took a half day and drove there himself. He parked behind semi-trucks and waited. At 2:47 p.m., Madison's white Camry pulled in, followed by a black Chevy Silverado. Drew recognized the driver, Kyle Tripp, a defense contractor who worked base supply logistics, married to Serena, about Drew's age, with an easy smile that probably got him out of speeding tickets. Kyle walked to Madison's car, leaned down and kissed her, not friendly but familiar and hungry. Drew gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles went white but didn't move. He just watched as his wife and her lover walked into room 127. 2 hours and 23 minutes later, they emerged. They kissed again before Madison drove away, leaving Kyle to make an increasingly agitated phone call. Drew waited until both vehicles left, then approached the motel office. The clerk was worn down with suspicious eyes and yellow teeth. "Help you?" "Looking for someone who might have stayed here Tuesday," Drew said, showing his military ID. "Brook official business?" The woman's demeanor shifted. "What kind of official business?" "The kind that pays better than whatever they're paying you to keep quiet." Drew placed a 50 on the counter. "Room 127. Tuesday afternoon." The woman palmed the 50. "Kyle Tripp pays cash, weekly rate. 3 months, always with the same blonde. Tuesday and Thursday, regular as clockwork, sometimes Friday." Drew nodded and turned to leave. Walking to his car, he felt mission clarity. The enemy was identified. The battlefield mapped. Someone was blackmailing his wife. Someone who knew about Kyle, someone systematically draining their account. Drew was going to find out who. Drew spent the weekend locked in his office, spreading intelligence like tactical pieces, bank statements, GPS data, photos of Kyle's license plate. The breakthrough came cross-referencing Essent Services with Kyle's background. Kyle Tripp, married to Serena Ann Tripp, Essent Services, Serena Tripp. Drew pulled up Serena's social media, Pilates instructor, wine enthusiast, devoted military wife, according to Instagram. But recent posts had an edge. Passive-aggressive quotes about loyalty and betrayal, photos of expensive purchases with captions about treating herself and new beginnings. A woman whose world was falling apart, fighting back. Monday morning, Drew got Kyle's employment records through base security, Falcon Ridge subdivision, 20 minutes from base. Nice houses, manicured lawns support our troops magnet on the mailbox. Drew drove through that evening, noting layout, street patterns, blind spots. Serena's white Mercedes was in the driveway 20 minutes later. Serena emerged in yoga pants and a tank top. Drew followed her to a coffee shop called Grounded. Serena sat alone at a corner table, laptop open, furiously typing. Drew ordered black coffee and positioned himself to see her screen. She was composing an email, subject line final payment. Drew caught fragments. Told you this would end. My patience is exhausted. Consequences for both of you. When Serena left, she drove to FedEx and spent 10 minutes at a computer terminal, leaving with a small package. Drew approached the young clerk. Military discount? He showed his ID. Yes, sir. What can I help you with? The woman who just left, blonde Mercedes. Did she print something? The clerk looked nervous. I can't really discuss. Drew leaned closer. She's involved in a security matter. I just need to know what kind of documents. Photos, the clerk said reluctantly. Maybe 30 or 40 prints and some kind of letter. Drew nodded and left, his pulse hammering. Photos, letters, final payment. Serena Tripp wasn't just blackmailing Madison, she was escalating. Tuesday arrived with storm clouds building over the mountains. Drew sat outside the Desert Winds Motel, watching through binoculars. Madison arrived first, clearly agitated. When Kyle's Silverado pulled up, their conversation through her window looked heated. Kyle gestured frantically, shaking his head. Madison was crying. Finally, they went inside. Drew waited 15 minutes, then walked to the office. The same clerk was behind the counter. They're fighting today, she said without being asked. Who? Your blonde and her boyfriend, usually lovey-dovey. But today they're going at it like cats and dogs. Drew handed her another 50. I need to get closer. What room joins 127? 126 is empty, but I can't just... If you can, and you will, Drew said with command authority. National security. Room 126 smelled of cigarettes and industrial cleaner. Drew positioned himself against the adjoining wall and listened. Voices were muffled, but audible. Told you this would happen, Kyle's voice, angry and desperate. You said she was bluffing, Madison, tearful and furious. How was I supposed to know she had photos? Christ, Madison, she's been following us for months. What do we do now? She wants 10 grand, or she's sending everything to Drew. Talk to her, lie to her, make her believe we're not lovers anymore. She won't stop with 10,000. This is just the beginning. Footsteps. Then Madison's voice, cold and calculating in a way Drew had never heard. Then we stop her first. What do you mean? Kyle asked after a pause. We make sure she can't hurt us anymore. Madison, you can't be serious. Dead serious. She wants to play games? Fine. But I'm not losing everything because your wife can't handle being cheated on. Drew's blood turned to ice. He was listening to his wife plot someone's end in a cheap motel room with her lover, discussing permanent silence. Drew slipped out and walked to his car on unsteady legs. Everything he thought he knew about Madison was crumbling. His phone buzzed. Madison working late tonight, don't wait up. Drew typed back, no problem. As he drove home, Drew was planning his next move. He wasn't dealing with just an affair anymore. He was dealing with conspiracy. If Madison and Kyle were planning to hurt Serena, Drew needed to act fast. Not to save his marriage that was already ended, but to save a life and ensure justice. Drew's house felt like a crime scene. Every familiar object now seemed evidence of a lie. He poured bourbon and researched everything on Serena Tripp. According to Instagram, she taught Pilates at Serenity Fitness and had a class every Tuesday at 7 p.m. It was 6:15. Drew grabbed his keys. He waited in the parking lot until class ended and students filed out. Serena was last, carrying a yoga mat and water bottle, moving with exhausted grace. "Abrika, Mrs. Tripp." She spun around, defensive. "Yes?" Abrika Drew stepped into the neon light. "I'm Captain Drew Halstead. We need to talk." Recognition flickered, followed by fear. "I don't know who—" "Bring my wife, your husband, the money you've been demanding, the photos you've been threatening to release, and the conversation I overheard at the Desert Winds Motel 2 hours ago." Serena went white, looking for escape routes. "Pre, are you wearing a wire?" "Abrisi, no, I'm here to warn you." "Abri, warn me about what?" Drew stepped closer, noting her shaking hands. "Abroke, Madison, and Kyle are planning to hurt you, seriously hurt you. They're not going to keep paying, and they won't let you keep threatening them." Serena's laugh was bitter. "So, you're here to save me? The woman blackmailing your wife? Abri, I'm here to prevent someone from getting hurt. What happens between you and them after that is up to lawyers and courts." "Abri, you don't understand," Serena said, tears flowing. "He's been lying for months, coming home with her perfume, spending our money on hotels and gifts. I found credit card statements, I followed them, I took pictures. Abri, and you decided to make Madison pay instead of divorcing him. Divorcing him doesn't give me back 3 years I wasted believing his lies. It doesn't compensate for the humiliation of knowing half the base wives were laughing behind my back." She broke off, sobbing, all pretense gone. Drew waited until her breathing steadied. "How much have you collected?" 12,000, she whispered. "I was going to ask for 10 more and stop. I just wanted them to suffer a little, to know what it felt like to lose something they cared about. Congratulations, you've succeeded. But now they're talking about making sure you can't hurt them anymore. And I don't think they mean more money." Serena looked up with red-rimmed eyes. "What do you mean?" "Oh, you need to go to the police tonight. Tell them everything. The affair, blackmail, threats. Get it on record before something happens. Abri, but I'll be arrested for extortion. Abri, maybe. But you'll be alive to face charges." Drew pulled out a business card and wrote his cell number. "When you talk to the police, tell them I'm willing to testify about what I heard today. The conversation about stopping you permanently." Serena took the card with trembling fingers. "Why are you helping me? I've been tormenting your wife." Drew looked at this broken woman, driven to desperate measures by betrayal, because nobody deserves what they're planning, and sometimes doing the right thing matters more than personal loyalty. He turned to leave, then paused. "Mrs. Tripp, if you don't go to the police tonight, I will, and I'll tell them everything I know about all 3 of you." Drew drove home through the gathering storm. When he reached his driveway, Madison's car wasn't there. According to the GPS, she was at Kyle's house. His phone rang at 11:47 p.m. "Captain Halstead, Detective Maria Santos, Colorado Springs PD. We just had an interesting conversation with Serena Tripp. She says you suggested she contact us." "Aberfie, correct. AABR Shui. We need you to come in tomorrow morning. There are serious allegations and your testimony could be crucial." Drew stared out at rain pelting the windows. "I'll be there." "One more thing, Captain. Where's your wife tonight?" Drew checked the GPS. Madison's dot was still at Kyle's house. "I believe she's with the other subject of Mrs. Tripp's complaint. Kyle Tripp." Yes. Pause. "Captain, we're sending a patrol car for a wellness check on Mrs. Tripp. Based on what she's told us, we believe she might be in immediate danger." I think that's wise, Detective." Drew sat in darkness until dawn, watching his wife's GPS dot remain at Kyle's house. When the sun finally rose, painting storm clouds gold and crimson, Madison still hadn't come home. Drew realized he was about to lose everything he'd built his life around. But for the first time in months, he could breathe. The Colorado Springs PD interview room smelled of burnt coffee and disinfectant. Detective Santos was compact, with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "From the beginning, Captain Halstead," she said, activating a recorder. "When did you first become aware of your wife's affair?" Drew recounted everything methodically: the missing money, anonymous messages, surveillance, the motel conversation. Santos took notes, occasionally clarifying but mostly listening with focused attention. "And you believe Mrs. Madison Halstead and Mr. Kyle Tripp were planning to physically harm Mrs. Serena Tripp?" "Based on the conversation, I heard, yes." Madison specifically said they needed to stop her first and wouldn't let Serena destroy her life. Kyle seemed reluctant, but didn't try to talk her out of it. Brooke Santos consulted her notes. Mrs. Serena Tripp came in last night around 10 p.m. She provided extensive documentation, bank records, photographs, email correspondence, and disturbing text messages from yesterday evening from Madison. An unknown number but threatening content. Stop now or face consequences. You've pushed this too far. Some people don't know when to quit. We're tracing the number, but it appears to be a burner phone. Drew felt cold certainty. Where is my wife now? Brushy, we don't know. Patrol units went to your home and Mr. Tripp's residence early this morning. Neither location showed occupancy. Both vehicles are missing. Brushy, they're running. That's our assessment. We've issued bolos for both individuals and vehicles. We also have units protecting Mrs. Tripp. She's agreed to cooperate fully. Santos leaned forward. Final question, are you willing to testify against your wife if this goes to trial? Drew looked at his wedding ring, then slowly pulled it off and set it on the table. Yes, I'll testify to everything I've seen and heard. Brooke walking out, Drew felt like he was emerging from an underground bunker. His phone had 17 missed calls and 43 texts from Madison, progressing from desperation to threats. Drew, where are you? We need to talk. Police came to Kyle's house. What did you tell them? I can explain everything. Please call. You don't understand what's really happening. Final message. If you won't listen to reason, you'll have to live with the consequences. Drew forwarded everything to Santos, then drove to the base for emergency leave. Colonel Hayes approved without questions. Family emergency? Brewery, something like that. I may need to extend depending on developments. Brewery. Take care of yourself, Captain. The military takes care of its own. Drew spent the afternoon packing Madison's belongings into boxes. 6 years of shared life reduced to cardboard containers in the garage. At 4:17 p.m., his doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Drew saw two people he didn't recognize. A tall man in an expensive suit and a woman with silver hair in a severe bun. Brooke federal agents. Captain Halstead, Agent Rebecca Martinez, FBI. This is Agent David Chen. We'd like to speak about Kyle Tripp. Drew opened the door. FBI? I thought this was local. Brooke. Mr. Tripp holds security clearance and works classified defense contracts, Martinez explained. His situation has raised concerns about potential security violations. They sat in Drew's living room while Chen explained that Kyle's access to sensitive military logistics information, combined with personal crisis and criminal activity, triggered a federal investigation. We're particularly concerned about his recent behavior, Chen said. The past week he's accessed files related to base security protocols, personnel records, and transportation schedules that have nothing to do with his assigned projects. Free, you think he's selling information? We think he's a man under extreme pressure who suddenly has access to valuable intelligence, Martinez replied. People in his situation sometimes make poor decisions. Abrahu Chen leaned forward. Captain, we know you've been tracking your wife's movements. Any idea where they might have gone? Drew pulled up the GPS. Madison's dot has been stationary for 3 hours near Pueblo, but I don't know if she's still with Kyle or if they've separated. The agents exchanged glances. Captain, we need you to come with us. If Kyle Tripp is planning something desperate, your wife may be in danger regardless of her involvement. What kind of danger? Martinez stood up. The kind where people don't survive to face trial. The GPS led to an abandoned industrial complex outside Pueblo. Empty warehouses and rusted equipment from a defunct manufacturing facility. Kyle's Silverado and Madison's Camry were parked behind the largest building, hidden from the road. The FBI tactical team moved with practiced efficiency, surrounding the building while Drew waited in an armored vehicle with Martinez and Chen. Through his earpiece, he heard the team leader coordinating Alpha team in position, Bravo team in position, no movement visible, copy. Move in, Brewery. The breach was swift. Within minutes, building secure, 2 subjects in custody. No weapons found. Subjects appear to have been arguing when we arrived. Martinez turned to Drew. We're bringing them out separately. Are you prepared to see your wife? Drew nodded, though he wasn't sure. Kyle emerged first, hands zip-tied, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 10 hours. Wrinkled clothes, unkempt hair, hollow eyes of someone who'd realized the full scope of his mistakes. Madison came next. Drew barely recognized her. The polished military wife facade had completely cracked, revealing desperation and fury beneath. Smeared makeup, tangled hair. When she saw Drew through tinted windows, her expression twisted with rage he'd never seen. "Hey, Bruffy, you did this!" she screamed, struggling against the agent. "You destroyed everything." Ibrahim got out and approached Madison. "Mrs. Halstead, you're under arrest for extortion, conspiracy, and threatening a federal witness. You have the right to remain silent." But Madison wasn't listening. She stared at Drew with burning hatred. "Ibro, 13 years, she shouted. 13 years I followed you from base to base, pretending to be happy in your perfect military life. Do you know what it's like to start over every 2 years? To make friends just to leave them? To watch other wives build careers while I arranged my entire existence around your schedule? Bro, Drew rolled down the window. You knew who I was when you decided to marry me. You decided to destroy our marriage instead of talking to me. Yibroka, talking when? Between your missions and meetings and precious military obligations? When exactly was I supposed to tell you I was drowning? Maybe before you started sleeping with Kyle. Maybe before you started plotting to hurt Serena. Serena. Madison's voice rose to a shriek. That woman has been bleeding us dry for months. She was never going to stop. Martinez stepped closer. So, you decided to eliminate the problem permanently? Ibrahim Madison's defiance cracked, revealing fear. We were just going to scare her, make her understand she couldn't keep threatening us with what? The stolen chemicals from the base laboratory. Brunka, what chemicals? Ibrahim consulted his notes. Mr. Tripp used his security clearance to access restricted materials from the base chemical lab yesterday. Industrial solvents, primarily. The kind used for cleaning sensitive equipment. The kind that could dissolve a body, Martinez added matter-of-factly. Ibrahim Madison went pale. We weren't going to, Kyle just thought, Kyle thought. What, Madison? But Madison had finally stopped talking. The fight went out of her all at once, leaving her looking small and broken. Kyle, meanwhile, was in a separate vehicle, talking rapidly to agents, hands gesturing frantically despite zip ties, body language of a man trying to make a deal. Martinez returned. Mr. Tripp is claiming the whole thing was your wife's idea. Says she threatened to leave him if he didn't help her solve the Serena problem. He's offering to testify against her for a reduced sentence. Drew watched his wife being loaded into a federal transport, head bowed, shoulders shaking. 6 years of marriage, shared dreams, quiet moments, and future plans, reduced to this criminal conspiracy that destroyed everything they built. What happens now? Now they face federal charges, conspiracy to commit harm against a federal witness, theft of government property, extortion, and, depending on what we find in communications, possibly conspiracy to commit murder. Drew closed his eyes. And Serena? She'll face charges for extortion but likely get a plea deal for her testimony. Her lawyer is already working with prosecutors. As the convoy disappeared down the dusty road, carrying Madison and Kyle toward justice, Drew sat alone in the abandoned parking lot, trying to figure out how to rebuild from betrayal's ashes. His phone buzzed. Colonel Hayes heard about the arrests. Take all the time you need. Your job will be here when you're ready. Drew typed back, thank you. I'll be back soon. But driving home through Colorado twilight, Drew wasn't sure he'd ever really be ready for anything again.
Epilogue, Abraki.
6 months later, Drew stood in federal district court in dress blues, watching Judge Patricia Hendricks sentence his ex-wife to 25 years in federal prison. Madison, in an orange jumpsuit and shackles, had aged dramatically. Blonde hair grown out, showing gray roots, face hollow with someone who'd grasped the magnitude of their choices. Ibrahim Mrs. Halstead, Judge Hendricks said, voice carrying absolute authority. You have been found guilty of conspiracy to commit violence against a federal witness, extortion, accessory to theft of government property, and conspiracy to commit murder. Your actions represent not just a betrayal of marriage vows, but a fundamental violation of the trust placed in military families. Kyle had received 15 years after cooperating fully. His testimony painted Madison as the architect of escalating threats against Serena, though he admitted to stealing chemicals and helping plan what they called Serena's final lesson. Serena served 4 months in minimum security and received 2 years probation for extortion. She'd moved to Arizona after her divorce, opening a new Pilates studio. She'd sent Drew a single postcard. Thank you for saving my life. I hope you find peace. Drew kept the postcard in his desk drawer next to divorce papers and final court documents. Sometimes late at night when the house felt too quiet and memories too heavy, he would read those words again. What wasn't questionable was that Drew had saved his own integrity. In the military, integrity wasn't just a value. It was the foundation everything else was built on. Colonel Hayes had been true to her word. Drew's position waited when he returned from emergency leave. If fellow officers knew details of his personal crisis, they were professional enough not to discuss it in his presence. The Air Force took care of its own but expected its own to maintain standards. Drew had maintained his standards, even when it cost him everything. Albuquerque divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Madison, facing 25 years, had no leverage for property settlements or spousal support. Drew kept the house, cars, and what remained after legal fees. Her last communication was a letter through her attorney. "I hope you're happy with what you've done to us." Drew never replied. Now, standing in his empty house, truly empty, with Madison's belongings long gone, Drew contemplated orders received that morning. Ramstein Air Base in Germany, promotion to major, a fresh start, a chance to rebuild his career without shadows following him. He walked through each room one final time, remembering good moments despite everything. Madison bringing coffee in bed on Sunday mornings, painting the kitchen that first weekend. Those memories weren't lies, even if everything else had been. Real moments in a real relationship that had somehow transformed into something unrecognizable. His phone rang. "Detective Santos, Captain Halstead, update. Madison's appeal was denied this morning. The sentence stands. Drew felt nothing. There's something else." She asked her attorney to pass along a message. Drew waited. "She says she's sorry for all of it." Drew was quiet. "Thanks." After hanging up, Drew finished his walkthrough and locked the front door. His household goods had shipped to Germany. His car was sold. Tomorrow, he would fly to his new assignment, his new life, his new chance to build something genuine. Driving away for the last time, Drew caught himself checking the rearview mirror, not from nostalgia, but habit. Always watching for threats, scanning for danger, a survival skill that had served him well in his military career and, ultimately, saved him in his personal life too. As the plane lifted off from Colorado Springs, Drew looked down at the city that had been his home for 3 years and the site of his marriage's destruction. Mountains stretched endlessly toward the horizon, beautiful and indifferent, eternal in a way that made human drama seem small and temporary. Somewhere below, Madison was learning to live with the consequences of her choices. Serena was building a new life in Arizona. Kyle was counting years until release. And Drew was flying toward a future he couldn't yet imagine but knew he had the strength to build.